Hello, welcome to another great episode. We are here, our history buffs, and today's lecture, it's just amazing. This man was such an incredible person. During the time of slavery, the slaves escaped through something called the Underground Railroad. A lot of people thought railroad was a literal railroad, but it wasn't. It was a network of people who used their homes, schools, churches, and organizations, hospitals, wherever, to help people who were escaping freedom. One man, he stood above the rest. He became the father of the Underground Railroad. He financed Harriet Tubman. In today's lecture, I'd like you to meet a man who helped free over 800 people. His name was William Steele. I want to welcome everybody. Hi, subbies. Hello, Roilers. Thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time, welcome. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. Get the word out. When you do that, it lets the people know, it gets into the algorithm, and they get to meet inspiring people like we're getting ready to meet right now. Now, this man's life is inspiring, I say, because first of all, he was born into a family who was enslaved, and there were 18 children. He was the youngest of the 18. Now, his parents' name was Charity and Levin Steele, and he was born in Shamong Township, New Jersey, on October the 7th, 1821. Now, I had mentioned that the family was born enslaved. So the father bought his freedom in 1798 and he moved to New Jersey. Now, he didn't have enough money to buy his whole family's freedom. At the time, there were four children and his wife. They would go on to have 18 children in total, as I had mentioned. But wow, that's a lot of kids. And to try to move his family in such hostile, times, it was scary, I'm more than sure, for him, but most of all for his wife. Because let me tell you, Charity, whose name was originally Sydney, escaped twice trying to get out of the South to come and join her husband in New Jersey. First time she escaped with four of them, but they were caught immediately. So then she tried to escape again, and that time she was able to get away with two of her children, the two daughters. Now, the two sons, they unfortunately were left behind. And the story of them, this entire family was just so unique. And you could see God's hand was on them because generations later, their name still stands. So once Charity got to, New Jersey and met up with her husband, they started living their life. Now, one of the brothers who was left back during that time. He was unalived during a beating for visiting his wife without permission. That is so sad and so unfortunate how they did the people back then. Now, his other brother who was left behind, his name was Peter. You all, he was unexpectedly reunited with William, his other brother, still, who became the eventual father of the Underground Railroad when William was working in Philadelphia. You see, William moved to Philadelphia after he grew up, and he was working for this organization called the Anti Slavery Society. So in walks Peter. Now, mind you, they haven't seen each other for 42 years, so they don't know their siblings. So one of William's jobs for this organization was to, as people escaped, as they came in, he would talk to them, find out who they were, what resources that they needed, and then he would connect them all. Well, as Peter was telling his story, William realized, oh my goodness, this is my brother. Can you imagine how emotional that must have been for them? And then to find out that his other brother, had been unalived in such a horrific manner. It was, I'm sure, the most beautiful scene that you could ever imagine. These two brothers who hadn't seen each other. And the thing that was even more beautiful was that he was able to see his mom for the first time in 42 years. At the time that Peter stepped into that building, he was 50 years old. So he hadn't seen his mother since he was 8. So it's just emotional to think that people went through that during those times. And you have people nowadays who won't even go see their mother, and not even enslaved now, and won't go see their mother. So if you have a mom, my mom passed away, and it's still emotional for me today. So if your mom is still around, definitely go check her out, and grandma and anybody who's in your family, because as you see here, family is so crucially important. Now, in 1844, Steele married Letitia George, and they had four children. Do you know one of his daughters went on? Her name was Carolyn Virginia Matilda Steele, and she went on to become one of the first female black doctors in the United States. His son, William, who was named after him, his name was William Wilberforce. He became an attorney. His other son, Robert, became a journalist, and his daughter, Frances, became a teacher. So the whole entire family was phenomenal. Now, one of the reasons he was known as the father of the Underground Railroad is because he and his wife used their own home. It was a row house on a street called Ronaldson Street. It's today a historical site at 625 South Delhi, and he ran this home from 1850 through 1855. And during that time, he and his wife helped over 800 black people pursue their freedom. They would stop there and shower, eat, sleep, do whatever they needed to on their road to Canada or further north, escaping the South slavery. And he put his family at great risk to do this. Now, he also, one of the biggest things that he did was he was Harriet Tubman's major financer. So, whenever anything needed to go down as far as the abolitionist movement, William Steele was there with the money to help his community. He also was very instrumental after John Brown's raid in 1859. He opened up his home again to some of the people who were running away from that raid, as well as some of the family members of John Brown. And so, if you want to find out about John Brown's raid and all of what happened there, definitely click down below. I've left you a link. Now, during the Civil War, Mr. Steele operated a post exchange and also a training camp for black soldiers. So not only did he use his home, but he went and built stuff to help black people. This man was completely built different than many people today. He really wanted to help his community. He even built an orphanage for black children, and he also established the first YMCA there for black children in Philadelphia. So he used his money. Now, what money did he have? Well, listen, in 1861, he began a coal business. And this coal company is what made him a millionaire. And he leveraged his money and he brought properties. And from the money that he made, that's how he was able to build the orphanage and the YMCA. So he truly made money to be a blessing. Mr. Steele, after living a blessed life, passed on July 14th, 1902. He was about 80 years old, and he passed away in his home. He and his family are buried at the Eden Cemetery in Collingdale, Pennsylvania. You know, his papers were donated by his family. What a beautiful gift that his family gave to the Temple University. And the paperwork covers about 1865 to 1899. Now, he also published a book of his own paperwork. And so a lot of what we know today about those who escaped came from William Steele's paperwork and the notes that he took about the people as they stayed in his home. There were so many areas that we could be very grateful and thankful to Mr. Steele for, but also take an example from of how he lived his life. Let me show you how blessed this man was. Generations later, he had family members who actually played in the NFL. Art and Devin Steele. Devin played for the Houston Texans. They used to be called the Oilers. If you know, you know. And then another one of his relatives named Valerie Steele played in the WNBA. So wasn't this a wonderful, phenomenal story about a man who truly helped the black race in a time that it was dangerous to do so? And so we thank him for his work. I want to also thank you for joining me today for this great lecture. Leave your comments below. Had you heard of Mr. Steele? Have you ever been to his home there in Philadelphia, the historical site? When I visit Philadelphia, that's going to be one of my first stops. Now, as you know, my lectures are always for entertainment and educational purposes only. My resources were Timeline, Life and Times of William Steele, The Wayback Machine. Diane Turner's William Steele, an African American abolitionist. And then the Underground Railroad, the National Park Service. So I hope that you enjoyed our lesson today. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Listen, check out one of these other videos. Thanks for spending some of your time with me today, and I'll see you on another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. Thanks for watching.